If anybody thinks in South Africa that you can take the land without compensation, you're living in a dream. Let me put it quite frankly to you. If you want to start a civil war in South Africa, do that. Do that. And I told you before, that don't misjudge.
I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming. It's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
What a week, folks. What a week. What an absolutely crazy, backcrap, crazy week here in the United States. Freedom returned on the 20th of January, 2025. There's a long delay in this. YouTube is censoring my content. Right now, there's about a 10-second delay from when I do something. Sorry, that's why the screen showed up on there. There's a serious delay here. Also, my camera's not working properly. Let me fix that. Hang on. All right. Let's try it now. See, that's better. Okay, so my lips weren't moving with the video, so something YouTube's either got server issues or they're harassing my channel, one of the two. But what a week indeed. Let's double check on the audio here. Better. Okay, so all right, the audio is fine. So on Monday, January 20th, 2025, President Donald Trump became president of the United States once again, and freedom is ringing here in America from every hilltop, from every bell tower, from every church, from every synagogue, every home. The flags are flying. America is back. We are back indeed, baby. We are back. And it is a glorious time in America. At the same time, simultaneously, we must feel nothing but tragedy for South Africans as the African National Congress has passed and signed into law the Expropriation Without Compensation bill, which violates South Africa's constitution. It violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, of which South Africa is a signatory, and it is a gross violation of morals, and it's simply wrong. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to show you Twitter responses from major political parties and minor political parties, as well as some of the typical people who respond on Twitter. We're going to talk about that. We are also going to go into the actual story about the bill and what this means. Now, what's the immediate aftermath? I saw someone comment a few moments ago about one of the consequences of this bill. Well, this is some of the stuff you're going to see, folks. Come the opening of the markets on Friday, the 26th of January, the South African Rand will tank. South Africa's tenuous status and junk bond status will be cemented for the near term. Foreign direct investment will rapidly dry up. No one's going to invest money in South Africa when the possibility the government can simply take it for the public interest without compensation is on the table. Land values will begin to crater pretty quickly after that. Home losses and home values will go up. People will stop paying their bonds or their mortgages, as we call it here in America, and that will cause a knock-on effect in the marketplace with banks failing, unable to provide the money when people come to the bank to draw their money out. They simply won't have the money because they'll be in the red from people not paying their mortgages. When they try to foreclose on houses, they'll wind up with a glut of property, which will further lower the property values in the marketplace, much like the United States in the 1930s, after the crash of the stock market in 1929. Banks collapsed because we had no safety measures in place. Job losses will mount in South Africa as the economy tanks. And what you'll also see now is a number of people who will be emboldened to criminal action, land invasions, home invasions. People come and steal and occupy your thing saying, well, hey, the government said we're entitled to this. But this is not something that's made everyone on the left happy. The African Transformation Movement, the Mkhonto we Sizwe movement, and the economic freedom fighters have all issued statements and have issues with this. I have the MK Party statement here and the EFF, and I will read them in their entirety here shortly. Yes, crazy. Stop bond payments and claim squatter rights. It is a law. There you go. Straight from Davos, begging for investment, then gets off the plane and signs the expropriation bill. Yeah, Billy B, it's dumb beyond comprehension here. Let me go change my blinds because that's starting to distract me right there, that sunlight coming in. Hang on. Very distracting, very distracting. So that's a bit better. Yeah, so it's late after, or mid-afternoon here, mid-afternoon, so a little bit better. Wow, I'm watching that on the screen. It's so far behind here. Apologies for the delay, but it's only supposed to be a 3 to 4 second delay. All right, so there you go. We're back, and we're here. So we're going to talk about this stuff. I'm going to go through some Twitter comments. I'm going to give you my feedback, my analysis, and we're going to talk about it. If you've got questions in chat, feel free to raise your questions, or if you have a point to make, feel free to make them. I don't know how long we'll go tonight, but I just want to get this on the record to talk about this while the reactions come in. The international media has not responded yet. I've searched German, Brits, American. I haven't looked at the French press to see any response to this. I found nothing. I searched Google for news reports on it. No international media are reporting on this expropriation without compensation law that's now the law of the land in South Africa. I think I'm the only international journalist who's currently covering it. That will change rapidly. People will jump on this and start covering. So much for the Trump effect. Well, skeptic, there will be a Trump effect. That's for America. America's interest. The Trump effect isn't for South Africa's interest. So let me say hello to everybody in the chat, and we'll get started in here with what I've got to show you. Gus ist hier, John Möslein. John, na wie geht's? Der alte Knabe, ich hoffe ziemlich gut, weil hier bei uns ist es ja fabelhaft. Es geht ziemlich gut in den Vereinigten Staaten. Wir sind ja sehr froh. Unser Präsident ist wieder da, der Donald Trump. Ja. Anyway, welcome, John. Arctic, welcome to Nick Grove. What else? Here we got Greg Wochlick. Says he moved to Europe for 5 years ago. Well, Europe is much better off, buddy. Yes. Legal challenge take at least 2 years. Yeah, that's true. But it can be put into effect now unless a court stays it. I mean, the government can go expropriate whatever they want right now. It's the law before anyone can even get to the courts. So the courts can put a stay in there, but they have to do it. It's the law now. Just like apartheid was legal, this theft is legal now. Yep. The Arctic says immediate effect will be land invasions. There you go. The police will not remove illegal squatters while the NGOs apply for the land to be expropriated. There you go. There you go. First residence or farm they take will crash the property market, so selling your house will be a huge loss. Yep. Here for this. Hey, everybody. Hey, Shawnee. How's it going? More companies will pull out. More people will be unemployed. You guys are all hitting this right on the mark. This is giant F up. Yep. You're right about that. Western companies will pull out, but China is what? Yep. You're right. China will stay. And Western companies will pull out. No one would invest their money here now unless they're guaranteed an exemption. Exactly. The Chinese will get one. Elizabeth Kruger, welcome to you. And who else we got here? Hendo's here. Welcome back. Nick Groves, Chris Ehlers. We don't have presidents. We have gang leaders. Vulgar 999, is LA still on fire? Yes, it is. A new fire of over 8,000 hectares, or acres, not hectares. Acres caught fire last night, and it's raging out of control at this hour. Alker Leon says, sad day for South Africa. Yes, I agree. For all of Southern Africa as a consequence. South Africa is surely not going to be able to go now. Nope, they're not eligible for AGOA. It's very clear. And there is a super chat from Flying Boar of $5 Canadian. Oh my goodness, the Flying Boar, you still exist? I haven't seen you in donkey years. When's the last time you were here? Like 2022, 2023? Welcome back, man. It's good to see you. You used to do a lot of super chats. We really missed your departure. Most people say they're leaving. I wish Flying Boar said he's leaving. I wish he'd know we're leaving. Flying Boar is back. Good to see you again, man. Awesome. Little salute for you. Good to see you back. All right. So speaking of AGOA, let me just put that up on the screen very quickly and explain to you how that works. AGOA has stipulations. If you want to be part of AGOA, you have to agree to abide by certain things. We're not impinging on people's sovereignty, but we're giving you a benefit, and we expect something back for that benefit. And that's something we want. Where are you at? Here you go. Sorry. That's something we want is good governance. Well, we're not getting good governance in South Africa. That's for damn sure. So here is the criteria for eligibility to participate in the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act as per the legislation that authorized it here in the United States. And it is our law. Make no mistake. It's our law. We grant you benefits that we don't have to. So the president is authorized to designate a sub-Saharan African country as an eligible country if the president determines that the country has established or is making continual progress towards establishing a market-based economy that protects private property rights. And what's that? The Flying Board just give another super chat? What's that? Oh, that's the super chat from 4. Thank you for that, Flying Board. I'll get to that one in a moment. Yeah, so that is how AGOA works. You have to, where's Elon Musk? Well, hopefully he'll wake up. Elon Musk is asleep right now, but we'll see. So you must respect and protect, not just respect, but protect private property rights. With the expropriation without compensation, there's no protection there whatsoever for property rights. This is a clear violation of the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, and South Africa has made itself ineligible for that duty-free access to the U.S. marketplace, and we should punish the ANC for that. And that's not the only problem. This is also part and parcel of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, of which South Africa is a signatory, and they famously signed their new constitution in 1996 on the 10th of December to celebrate the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It's also a violation of the spirit of the Freedom Charter from 1955. This is unbelievable. This is a betrayal of everything, and this is something we can't let the ANC get away with. Article 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says, everyone has the right to own property alone as well as in association with others. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. Arbitrarily deprived. Not compensating someone is an arbitrary deprivation of property. Bear in mind, folks, that property is not designated as land. It's property. Your cars, your pension funds, your stocks, your bonds, your Krugerrands, your loonies, your U.S. Eagles. This is all property. Your car, your apartment, your flat, it's all property. This will be used as a political tool by the government to silence you when you're in opposition or to enrich cadres when they want it. Billy B says straight from Davos. Yep. All right. What else have I missed here while I was getting that? 16 likes already. That's a good start. Let's keep pushing it there. Okay, what else we got there? Tom Smith is here. Got that. Arctic, Awkward Leon, Billy B. That's where I was. Chris Ehlers. Okay. The critical reviewer is still in shock regarding Cyril. Well, critical reviewer, I can understand why. Investment is running like fast out of South Africa. We're glad we left South Africa each passing day, says Jan Filion. Feel sorry for all the foreigners who've bought property. Well, yeah, Freelance Kate, that's part of it too. You're not protected because you're a foreigner. This is any property in South Africa, if it's there. Smoothie says, Trump already failed to end Ukraine invasion day one. Sign of things to come. Well, Smoothie, if you honestly thought that Trump was going to spend time ending the Ukraine war on day one, you weren't really paying attention. That's just hyperbole. Trump said that a long time ago. He hasn't said that in the last 5 or 6 months. He said that a long time ago. He just repeats it for popular stuff. He accomplished the things that he promised he would do on day one, minus the Ukraine, which was just hyperbole. I never took it seriously. He's no way he can end the war on day one. He's not even in office. He did get the hostages released, though, with a threat. So anyway, Ukraine war, ending that war is up to Vladimir Putin and Volodymyr Zelensky. And the NATO countries that are funding this war and the United States to stop funding it. Well, we're not funding it anymore. That has ended, at least for the moment. So the RAND actually improved. No market shock as yet. Well, Vernon, we'll see. Husband grew up in Zimbabwe. Chinese are very much involved. Yes, they're very much involved in Zimbabwe. It's without compensation when people don't have the... Oh, Smoothie, are you serious? Are you serious? I've seen the African transformation movement, and we're going to show that guy on camera from SABC when there's no offer. Seriously? This is how this works. I'll show you how this works. Yes, Mr. Fillon, your farm must be returned to the state. We need to use it. Well, I don't want to sell. Well, you have to sell. Well, I don't want to sell. What position does the farm owner or the property owner have to dispute it? None. This is a joke. When people don't take the offer. When they don't take the offer, then you take their land. So that's a silly argument, Smoothie. It's without compensation when they refuse to take the offer. So if they don't take the money you offer them, if you offer the money, then you take the land anyway. But you're not required to offer them anything. It's just a silly argument. This is a leftist argument that goes nowhere. Niels de Bruin says the world will do nothing. This fight has always been in front of the Boer Nation. May God's will be done. Well, you're going to need to stand up as a Boer Nation. Flying Boer, welcome to you. Faith Naidu. So does this bill mean the end of shacks and squatter camps? No, it doesn't. It doesn't mean the end of shacks. Of course not, Faith. That's silly. People who continue to reproduce with no viable means to support their offspring are the reason why there are squatter towns and shacks. There are more shanty towns and tin shacks in South Africa by a factor of 3 than there were during apartheid because people not being responsible. So that's not going to go away. Smoothie says people shouldn't judge Nicklin for Nazi salute. So he didn't have a Nazi salutation. That's a fantasy fairy tale of hate-wanking leftists and has nothing to do with this conversation. Nike Kruger says, who will lose the most votes? DA, Freedom Front Plus, probably stand to lose votes. The ANC will not lose any votes, I don't think. Okay, what else? Jan says the DRC was the second richest country in Africa in 1960, and they had electric public buses. That's true. The videos when we did the special with Erica and Nigel. Where is Nigel Soden? I haven't seen Nigel in ages. Nigel, Erica, and the others who were born or lived in the Congo when it fell apart. We showed those images, those photographs of what Kinshasa, Stanleyville used to look like. Leopoldville, these places used to look like back in the day, and they were functioning. They had parks that were clean and everything. It was just an amazing place, ruined in a matter of minutes when the Congolese took it over. Yep. Our funeral policy paid up over 40 years on investigation non-existent. What? Your funeral policy's gone? That's crazy. Deport the ANC to Mars. Well, that's an idea. All right. He still said it. He still said it. How can you say a Nazi salute? It's a physical action. You don't say a Nazi salute. You do a Nazi salute. He didn't do it. That's a lie. It's a lie. I saw what he did. Yes, I know. Just trying to wind me up. SABC is going to levy a charge. Cell phones. That's true. All right. ANC will target unused land. Just owning land for sake. Owning land is wasteful. I own a small patch of land with friends, and we will take up first offer, says Smoothie. Would you travel to DRC now in an Atlas? Huh? Jan says the beard got short in the last 24 hours. Nope. That was 48 hours ago that shortened. I didn't cut it in the last 24 hours. It was 48 hours ago. Yep. Anyway. So, Chantel Boyson is here. Welcome. So, we've talked about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We've talked about AGOA and how it's ineligible. Let's talk about South Africa's constitution and what it says about expropriation without compensation. You cannot simply do expropriation without compensation because you pass a law. The law must comply with the Constitution, which is the supreme document. This law is in contradiction of the South African Constitution, and let's see how it's in contradiction. We're going to talk about that specifically. According to Section 25 of South Africa's 1996 Constitution, voted on, drafted, and approved, voted into place by a majority black government led by the ANC, no one may be deprived of property except in terms of law of general application, and no law may permit arbitrary deprivation of property. So you cannot take property without compensation according to that clause. Property may only be expropriated in terms of the law for a public purpose or in the public interest, subject to compensation, which must be just and equitable. And the flying boar is back again. Woo! Wasn't the old South African ally of the USA during the Cold War? Did any of their leaders visit USA during that time? Yes and no. It was an ally in the fight against communism, but we had frosty relations when it came to South Africa's apartheid policies. The U.S. is often accused of facilitating apartheid, which is nonsense. The U.S. Did many things to try to end apartheid, negotiating with South Africa, using diplomacy with South Africa, and then eventually sanctions were approved by Congress, and they overrode President Reagan's veto and put them in place to end apartheid. So it's a mixed bag. USA went both ways, but the land must be compensated, or property must be compensated, and it must be just and equitable. It can't just be arbitrary. And there's a whole series of clauses here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different conditions for when land can be expropriated with just and equitable payment. And look at the bottom. Property is not limited to land. Property is not limited to land. Ladies and gentlemen, your flats, your cars, your stocks, your bonds, your Krugerrands, your Eagles, your loonies, all of these things are property, and all can be taken from you by the corrupt ANC government. All right, let's get to the news articles that come out on this. As I said, this has not appeared in international media yet. I'm sure it's being written about right now. Or South African journalists are sending their articles into the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, which will be published by South Africans and not by people who are paying attention to this objectively. Ramaphosa has signed the expropriation bill into law. It repeals the 1975 Expropriation Act, which occurred under the apartheid era. And this bill provides for zero compensation. But already the legal challenges are looming. Already, we're getting started. Opposition parties, including Democratic Alliance, AfReform, Action SA, among others, have vowed to take legal action against Ramaphosa for signing this bill into law. But it won't just be those parties. It's others. The MK party is not happy. The EFF is not happy. We're going to talk about that. Let's start this off with our Twitter stuff now. We're going to go to Twitter. These are comments coming in on Twitter since we've covered the news articles. We've talked about my analysis. I'll provide more as we go along. But let's look at where we can find information on this right now. Tomorrow, there'll be a lot more information. But right now, Twitter. The Conscious Caracal, who works for AfriForum, says with the signing of the expropriation bill, the government of national unity has declared war on private property owners in South Africa. Yep. Just as with the threat to offer cons education from the Bella Act, any law which seeks to dismantle private property rights is a true red line for AfriForum. The organization intends to treat it as such. AfriForum vows to launch substantial legal action to protect property owners in the event that they are targeted by the government for expropriation. The promulgation of the Bell Act and now the signing of expropriation indicates that the ANC has effectively used the GNU to co-opt the former opposition parties to help the ANC carry out every one of its destructive policies. There you go. And there's a link there on Twitter. You can go support AfriForum if you like. Let's take a look at what parties are saying. The Democratic Alliance has posted a tweet. Woo! A tweet. That'll change the world. The DA will challenge the bill signed into law by Ramaphosa. While the DA recognizes the Constitution allows for acts of redress and restitution, we have reservations about the procedure and aspects of the bill. Our legal team will now formulate our case. Well, there is no question. I've read the Constitution to you. It clearly states that compensation must be just and equitable, and it only has to be for specific reasons. Well, Umkhonto we Sizwe has also weighed in on this, and let me give you that. So, the Umkhonto we Sizwe statement on this says the MK party rejects the signing of the expropriation bill into law. So a lot of people are not happy about this, not simply the Democratic Alliance or AfriForum and Freedom Front Plus. So the Umkhonto we Sizwe party vehemently rejects the signing of the expropriation bill into law by Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa today. They don't even call him president. The legislation disguised as a solution to South Africa's land question is nothing but a continuation of injustice and a betrayal of our people's struggles for true land restitution. The expropriation bill, by limiting land restitution to land dispossessed after 19 June 1913, deliberately entrenches the theft of land that began with the arrival of Jan van Riebeeck on the 6th of April, 1652. You could take that and shove your distortion of history up your ass, MK. The theft of land began with the arrival of the Nguni-speaking peoples crossing over the Zambezi and then the Limpopo rivers into South Africa and dispossessing the Khoi and San who were resident in South Africa. Land theft and dispossession began centuries, a millennia plus before Europeans arrived in South Africa. And to ignore that historical fact is a blatant lie and a dog whistle to racism. They say it ignores the dispossession, violence, and destruction of African livelihoods that occurred over more than 2 centuries before the infamous 1913 Land Act. By excluding the pre-1913 dispossessions, this bill ensures that the stolen land of our ancestors remains in the hands of colonial beneficiaries. And I'm sure that the Khoi and San and the coloreds who are descended from the Khoi and San and some Afrikaners who are also descended from Khoi and San also feel that this ignores the Nguni dispossession of land that occurred for over a millennia. Worse, this law puts money into the pockets of land thieves by requiring compensation for land that was violently stolen. You can go fuck yourself, MK, and I said that clearly for everybody listening. If the language offends you, I'm sorry, that hurts your feelings, but you can go fuck yourself, MK. Land stolen. People who purchase land legally are not thieves. They're not thieves. You don't get to go back to the year 0 and say, oh, this land was stolen because my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather took a shit here once upon a time in the year 2000. Or the year 0. You don't have to go back to the birth of Christ and claim land. You're perfectly fine saying the Jews aren't entitled to Judea and Samaria because, well, they're not there. They're not from there. Well, in fact, they are. Their claim goes back 5,000 years, long before any Nguni and speaking peoples ever found their way across the Limpopo. Quit calling people who bought land lawfully thieves. Instead of redressing historical injustice, it protects the interests of those who continue to benefit from colonial apartheid-era plunder. What a bunch of horse shit. The MK party category rejects this law and its attempts to sanitize the theft of our land. It's not your land. And if you try to take it, you're going to regret it. Our ancestors' cries for justice cannot be silenced by legislative tricks designed to preserve the status quo. This is black supremacy. That's all this is. The MK party reaffirms its commitment to genuine land restitution. We will soon submit a private member's bill that seeks to amend Section 25 of the Constitution. Our starting point will be to move the arbitrary cutoff date from 1913 to 1652, the day colonial dispossession began with Van Riebeeck's arrival. This is the only way to honor the struggles of our forebears and to begin to dismantle the structural inequalities that persist to this day. We call on all progressive forces to reject this law and join us in the fight for true justice. The land was stolen and must be returned without conditions or compensation. And you can go fuck yourself. I call on all rational South Africans to reject this racist garbage and distortion of history. MK party is a vile, repulsive, black supremacist party. that will destroy South Africa and kill people in the process. So I call on people to reject them. Now let's listen into the African Transformation Movement's leader, Vuyo Zungula, who has a little bit to say on SABC about this.
And without compensation. So that is why, in our view, it makes a mockery of the public participation process, because government needs to do what the people want, not the other way around. You can't have a case whereby citizens go to a public participation process and say land expropriation without compensation, but the government or the president communicates something.
Yeah, buddy, the overall majority, over 85% of the comments, were not for what you're arguing for, theft of land. They were protect property rights. So he wants the land stolen from the legal owners of it. That's what he wants. That's right, Charles. No one stole the land. If anyone stole land, it was the Nguni tribes themselves. Yep. Right. So the economic freedom fighters have weighed in on this. Julius Malema's rapidly shrinking political party says the Expropriation Act is a legislative cop-out by the African National Congress. So let me read their statement on this specifically. All right, so the EFF says, this is 23 January 2025. It's today. The Economic Freedom Fighters notes the decision by President Cyril Ramaphosa today to assent to the expropriation bill, thereby passing it into law. The EFF opposed the expropriation bill in Parliament, citing that it provides no radical departure from the past and that it merely aligns the country's expropriation laws with the 1996 Constitution. No, it doesn't. It violates the 1996 Constitution. Previously, expropriation was governed in terms of the Expropriation Act of 1976. It was actually 1975, so they're factually wrong twice in the first paragraph. Primarily, we oppose the act because it provides a legislative mechanism for the implementation of Section 25, subsections 2 and 3 of the Constitution, which provide that property may be expropriated in terms of a law, a general application for public purpose, or in the public interest. More importantly, Section 25, Paragraph 2b of the Constitution provides expropriation can only be done subject to compensation, the amount of which must be decided by the parties concerned or by the courts. And Section 3 of that the Constitution sets out factors that must be taken into consideration when calculating compensation for expropriation, all of which I just shared with you a few minutes ago. Those who conceptualize the Expropriation Act are of the view that the factors listed in the Constitution can be creatively interpreted to mean that in some instances compensation for expropriation could be zero. This is a very wild hypothesis, rooted in some utopian understanding of the Constitution. Thank you, J.P. Roof, for subscribing. Utopian understanding of the Constitution. In at least one instance where this judicial adventurism was attempted by the Land Claims Court in the matter of ICE and another versus Mzizi from 2016, in terms of which the Land Claim Court reduced the amount that was payable to the owner from 1.8 million to 1.5 million. The Supreme Court of Appeals upheld an appeal against that judgment. The Supreme Court of Appeals relied heavily on the provisions of the Constitution and found that there was no justifiable reason for the decision taken by the Land Claims Court. The constitutional framework remains the same. Expropriation in South Africa is a compensation-centric, and this is rooted in the Constitution. The new Expropriation Act seeks to legislate the legal absurdity that it was rejected by the Supreme Court of Appeals. That was rejected. It provides that there are instances in which compensation for expropriated property could be calculated to be zero, which in their view equals expropriation without compensation. The Act then provides a closed list of instances in which compensation for expropriation could be calculated for zero compensation. These instances include cases where land is held for speculation purposes, abandoned land, land that poses health hazards, and so on. Even if it were true that these categories of land could be expropriated at no compensation, this would not change the structure and nature of landholding in South Africa, because it would basically mean that only land that is of little value could be expropriated without compensation. Those who own the categories of land listed in the Act are subject to nil compensation, still enjoy constitutional protections as outlined, and they would be able to challenge this sort of expropriation in court and win. The Expropriation Act, therefore, is a legislative cop-out by the ANC and used only to fool our people into believing that the party is doing something to address the almost tyrannical neglect of land question in this country. And I will agree with the ANC, or with the EFF. It has been a tyrannical neglect of the land question. The ANC has had the money. The land has been available. You can go look right now. There are hundreds of farms and farmlands available for sale. There are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of properties for sale in South Africa. And the government of South Africa has done nothing to ameliorate that situation. The ANC has neglected it. The EFF is correct there, but we part company at that point. It will not assist in resolving the tragedy of land restitution in this country, which has hollowed out state coffers for compensation to white settlers who illegitimately own our land. Number one, fuck you, EFF. White settlers, you're fucking Nguni settlers who come down. You want to play this game? They're South Africans, and the people who own land bought that land. There are very few people in South Africa whose family owns land that they've owned since 1652 or 1670 or 1710 or 1750. Utter nonsense. Utter nonsense. White settlers? How about Nguni settlers? All right, and hollowed out state call for compensation. Are you serious? Are you serious? Last year, the state only put $35 million for land compensation. You can't even buy a wine estate for $35 million. No, nothing's been hollowed out. This is garbage, garbage. The EFF is a bunch of lying sacks of horse manure. Nobody's been hollowed out paying for land in South Africa. That's a joke. And it also, this from the MK party and from the EFF, focus entirely on land. But the reality is, I'm telling you folks, this is not about land. It's about political control and suppressing free speech when you oppose the government of the day, or enriching cadres to take from you what they want at no compensation. And it will be used in that fashion. Not about land. This isn't going to solve any land, and it never was intended to solve any land issues. And the EFF is full of crap. The only democratic mechanism through which the land question can be resolved is amending the entirety of Section 25. This must include provisions for state custodianship of land. The state owns the land, just like the state owns the mineral rights, and that's why South Africa is so screwed. A mere act of parliament cannot override the Constitution. You're correct there. That's another thing the EFF has gotten correct. James Keevy, thank you for subscribing. That's another thing they got correct. The mere act of the legislature can't override the Constitution. We therefore reject this act, and we'll soon table a new set of legislative proposals. Well, they're not going to go to court. The MK party is going to go to, well, they're just going to complain. They didn't offer to do anything. But the EFF is going to try to put legislation into Parliament to change this. Look, folks, this nobody's happy about this except Cyril Ramaphosa. Let me see who's in the chat since I went to read that stuff. For some reason, the majority of South Africa think this is land bill, that they're going to get land. Exactly, Charmaine. That's why it's being presented in that fashion. And this is where the DA, the Freedom for Plus, AfriForum, Solidarity, Dear SA have all screwed up royally. Why do people not listen? It gives me a headache to be right all the time. I'm sorry, but I've been telling you this all along. This is about property. Property. Property is not land. It's one aspect of property. Is this charged? Hang on. Yeah, here's my mobile. This is property. This is property. This is property. A letter opener. This computer's property. My automobiles are property. My house is property. My plot of land is property. The ANC is lying. If they want to create capital, they simply need to return title deed to the RDP houses and the land where they sit to the occupants of it. Right now, done and dusted, billions of dollars of capital released. Anyway, if it were Khoi Khoisan, it would be a different story. They at least have a horse in that race, although ownership of land was not theirs. Exactly. They didn't own land. And the Nguni tribes didn't own land either. The land was held in common by chiefs, not by the people. And that's what they want. That's what EFF wants. It wants a land held by the state, who they consider to be the chiefs. They don't want you to own land if you're black. They don't want you to own land if you're brown. They certainly don't want you to own land if you're white. This is stupid. It doesn't work. Population in South Africa is not 60,000 wandering nomads hunting game and eating berries and medicinal crops from the Karoo or the Fynbos. That's not South Africa. South Africa is occupied by 63 million hungry, rapacious people who want water and iPhones. Gerald says, you know what? The Boer War never ended. It's still in the go and alive, and it's shifted overseas. Migrants aiming to take over Europe. And yep, I actually think they should just start trying to take my stuff. I'm tired of being nice, says Reddick. Hey, welcome back, Reddick. Why do this now? Is Davos on? Yeah, well, Charles, how stupid is Squirrel? That's a good question. Most of our property's already been expropriated, so why not land too, says Charles. Yeah, well, they take all your money. Heath Wagner says Zimbabwe second time around. Yep, South African ANC has collapsed, correct. ANC is a crap tone of land they never give to anyone. Yep. What was that? I missed something there. This won't hurt our markets. Okay, Smoothie. All right, won't hurt your markets. Sure. Your house value is not going to decline because of this. Your ability to get a mortgage isn't. That's another thing. Banks aren't going to loan money to people to buy homes when they think they're going to be expropriated. What collateral do you have? What collateral do you have? It's about exerting power over minorities. Well, it's about exerting power over everybody, Charles. About everybody, I think. Property markets will be up for grabs. Money for the elites. Yep. The same way Bob Mugabe did things. Yep. Sad we minorities get not considered South Africa by some. Yeah, that's true too. There's my email address if someone wanted to write to me. I haven't checked my email in a couple weeks. Jeez, I've been busy. Mary Duplessis, yesterday it was approximately 17. Yep, all your assets. I don't think they will target middle income and lowers, only fat cats in white and black. Smoothie, you make a fair statement, but I'm telling you they're going to target anybody who opposes the government of the day. If you become a thorn in the government's side, I mean, look, if the ANC actually knew I exist, if they actually knew I existed, they'd be angry with me. But anybody that proves to be a thorn in the government with their speech on Twitter, with their behavior on YouTube, with their actions in the press, in the streets, demonstrating, you are going to be a target. Levin just gave a super chat. Thank you for that, Levin. Dumb question. Could the land of the Inganyoma... Yes, it can be expropriated. The Inganyoma Trust is also in jeopardy. The Zulu should be up in arms. Yep. Smoothly. Not okay. What about all those loans based on land ownership? The economy will... Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm talking about. So all these people who own homes, like I have a mortgage for this freaking place, pay a fortune for it every month. If the government can expropriate that property, if they come in my neighborhood and expropriate somebody's house, like the house on the corner, to widen the road, well, my property values are going to drop because what's going to happen next? And when the property values drop, I had lost my resale value. So I'm trapped in the house and I wind up in negative equity. And then when I'm in negative equity, if I lose my job, I can't make my mortgages, I can't sell my house, the bank will repossess and they'll have tons of houses on their hands. Freedom from Plus hasn't issued any statement. That's correct. I've already gone there. I've sent Dr. Peter Cherneval my video that I produced earlier. I don't know if he's responded. He's a busy guy. I did get a response from Action SA, which I'm not going to share right now because I don't know if I'm allowed to do that. But I have a response from Action SA, and I have not contacted the DA because I'm not going to get a response. But yeah. All right. Okay. All right. So yeah. Anyway. Yeah. And I haven't heard anything back from Dr. Cherneval. So, but he's a busy guy. Helen might just lose some property. Yeah, the Freedom from Plus hasn't said anything awkwardly on, so I'm waiting. The Zulus do not recognize the fact that Nguma Trust becomes defunct. Let's see the Zulu King handle that problem. Exactly. Well, Zulu King is neutered. He's not a factor here. The Cape Independence Advocacy Group has issued a statement. They have a press release. Press statement. Here you go. Let's go see what that has to say. The Cape Independence Advocacy Group expresses profound concern over the recent signing of the expropriation bill by President Ramaphosa. Legislation which allows for expropriation of land with no compensation represents a direct assault on the fundamental rights of property that are essential for a thriving free economy. Dr. Joan Swart. I actually met Dr. Joan. I've interviewed Dr. Joan Swart on the program. So Martin van Staden has weighed in on this as well. Yeah, Martin van Staden. Let's go ahead and get him up here and see what he's got to say.
Ramaphosa signing into law of the so-called Expropriation Act is a brazen defiance of the plain meaning of the constitutional text, which in sections 25.2 and 25.3 clearly and unequivocally indicate that whenever there is expropriation of private property in South Africa, there must be payment of compensation. The new Expropriation Act throws this to the wind and allows the government to expropriate property upon the so-called payment of so-called nil compensation, which is legalistic and euphemistic abuse of the constitutional language. And the president, as a so-called legal scholar, has unfortunately not only indicated his ignorance of constitutional propriety, but also his rejection of the very basic principles of constitutional law and of constitutionalism. If ever there were a red line for the government of national unity, this must be it. Private property rights are not simply a economic policy preference, but a pillar of democracy and of freedom, and certainly, in particular, of South Africa's negotiated settlement from the 1990s. Civil society now has a very important role to play and should not concede 1 inch on the adoption of this legislation, and must call for its complete rejection and complete and total repeal. And civil society must place concomitant pressure on the partners to the GNU to ensure that this is translated into political reality. This is what it comes down to, ladies and gentlemen. This is the most pernicious piece of legislation that has been adopted in post-apartheid South Africa.
Yep, it is. Using some big words there. Promiscuous, co-committant, come-committant. Some big words by Martin von Staden there. Also, I get a kick out of this. You notice how people are always chastising America for using the British equivalent, inches and feet and yards. But in the expression, no one ever says, don't give a centimeter. They always say, don't give an inch. And Martin said, don't give an inch. I thought that was funny. Yeah, so there you go. Comments over here. There's a question from Faith Naidu. Faith says, will complexes be affected? I reside in a complex. I pay for my unit. Okay, Faith, let me, because I've been very animated and excited here. Yes and no. Jein, as we say. Ja, nein, jein in German. So, yes and no. It will affect you from a standpoint that if you own that property in an apartment complex, it is likely to be worth less in value in the very near future as a consequence of the ripple effect of this stupid legislation that's now law, driving down property values. It's unlikely, unless you do something to challenge the government, that they will come after you. Or unless, if you live in a complex, it's obviously not in the way of a highway being developed or a bridge that needs to be developed, then there's no justification for taking it. But that doesn't mean they won't take it. So, yeah, if you own an apartment in a building, say like in Asimtoti, like Erica has, it's likely not going to affect that. But it does affect you. And that's the problem. Communicating this to people, it could affect the value of the rand, decreasing it, costing you more money to buy things from abroad or to travel abroad. It will likely cause serious disruption in the property market, in mortgages or bonds, as you call them in South Africa. And it is a tool which I guarantee you, if this thing survives, which it's unlikely to do, if it's implemented, which it probably will be implemented immediately and then cause some problems, it will cause great pain in South Africa. It's just the foolish stupidity. It makes no sense whatsoever. And it doesn't address the leftist black supremacy desires to steal all the land, claiming that anybody who happens to have white skin is a thief or a settler. This is racist language, dog whistles by leftist black supremacists, and it's shocking that it's allowed to get away. Where is the South African Human Rights Commission when they call whites settlers in South Africa? That is nothing other than an attempt to demean South Africans who are white as if they have no purpose in South Africa. They don't belong there. They're aliens. They're not. If they're aliens, so are the Nguni speakers, which means that most black South Africans have no business in South Africa either. And neither one of those statements is legitimate. All South Africans born in South Africa have a right and a purpose to live in South Africa, so they can shove it in their backside. But Faith, it's not going to mean tomorrow someone's coming for your condo. If, however, you wind up in a relationship, Faith, with a member of the local council by happenstance in Asimtoti or in Zeerust, and they happen to be in the ruling party, and you have a bad breakup, don't be surprised if one day someone comes and takes your unit, takes it away from you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Yeah, so can you say anything about the action essay response? I can say that, let me see what I can say. So, okay. Actually, I can say something because all it is a screen capture that was sent to me that Athol Trollop said. It said, this mad ANC communist ideology has just been signed into law by a president without a majority and who has not only emasculated his GNU partners, he is finally going to destroy our economy and send us off the fiscal cliff just as Mugabe did to Zimbabwe. Wow, we are led. Well, that's actually a statement from Athol Trollop, so I can share it. I'm sorry. I didn't get a good look at it. That's from Athol Trollop. I will reach out to Athol and see if he wants to come on the program. Wow. So V. Ruiz says, who cares? Another failed African country. Who cares? Well, I think millions of South Africans care, my friend. Millions of South Africans. Anyway, Freemasonry, what? Pete Mesquite. That's an interesting surname. Okay, what else we got here? I've got more to show you guys. So Constitution, if they have outright majority, say, what's this? No, you can change the Constitution in South Africa with 2/3 majority. You need 67%. The ANC's actually had 67% in Parliament once. They had 69 one time. They could have amended the Constitution, but they didn't really do it. So, yeah, Bernard says it's going to get very real very fast. Oh, yeah, we're in the fast lane now. Cyril has parked the car on a hill in San Francisco, and he's climbed in the car. It's in neutral, and he's released the parking brake, and now you're headed down the hill. Lee Roberts says back. How you doing, Lee? How will financial leaders look at this? Not very well. Let's see how long. Well, land rights and land occupation, Anthony, that's what's coming. So this is a good one. I like this response. This is Comrade Watchdog _ZA says, inside I'm laughing. Many people are going, expropriation land is going to be good. Mother effers, the bill says property. That means any property, including investments. They can take everything you have now, regardless of your skin color. You are fools. 100% correct. 100% correct. And that's what I've been saying all along. And that's where the South Africans who are opposed to this have been missing the boat. They've not been talking about the full impact of this. And here you have this clown, Chris Excel, who has, I'm a savage, I'm an a-hole, I'm a king, the only legal black Twitter president commentary, we stand with brothers in difficult times, has 3.1 million viewers. And this troll, this is what she puts on there. Now that expropriation bill is signed, we are moving into white areas before Valentine's, comrades. Look at this. We're moving into white areas. Well, first off, I know she's trying to be funny and she's trolling. She got 99,000 views on that racist piece of garbage. There are no white areas in South Africa. That ended in 1988. So I don't know what she's talking about there. Just being a typical race hustler. So here she is using Eddie Murphy's movie saying, my first morning Aranya next week after expropriation. She's trying to be funny. Playing, this is from Eddie Murphy. Coming to America. Yeah, so she is, she thinks that's funny.
Behold, Simi, life, real life, a thing that we have been denied for far too long.
Yeah, okay, you've been denied nothing. That's Brooklyn. Welcome. I wonder if they can expropriate my taxes, Reddick. I wonder. People are confusing land expropriation with land grabs like what Putin is doing. No, Putin is not doing a land grab. Putin is invading his neighbor to get a change in either government or in subjugation. That's very different than a land grab. South Africa has a long history of squatters occupying land. I mean, most informal settlements are illegally on land. They're not on land. No one authorized them to be in most of these places. The South African government didn't say, here, build your tin shacks here. No, that's not true. People just glom onto these things. Medical aid. Yes, it includes medical aid. Any property. Well, yeah, exactly, Odin's Viking. Welcome back. What white areas? There are no white areas in South Africa. I don't know any place where only white people live, and I've been all over South Africa. Does this not show the sheer arrogance of some black people in South Africa? No, it shows the sheer arrogance of the African National Congress. They're not even in power. The tweet from Athol Trollop was spot on. Hang on. Let me see. Just trying to tell him he's welcome to come on. Yeah, so this is insane. Absolutely insane. Greg says, I worry about my pension that's stuck in South Africa. I guess it will get stolen as I'm in Europe with no real power to rescue it. SARS is dragging its feet. Yes, Greg, if it doesn't get resolved shortly, and that's one of the reasons why they dragged their feet, because they knew that eventually this was coming so they could get their hands on people's pensions. So, yeah, I am worried. I'm not trying to frighten you, or, I'm not Cassandra. I'm not, crying wolf, but I would be concerned about it if I were you. Look, I'm concerned about my Army pension until Trump came in office. Now I'm not worried about it. And I'm also still concerned about Social Security, which I don't think I'll ever see because it's bankrupt. And so I've paid in for 40 plus years and I'm probably going to get nothing. And my Army pension, I served 36 and a half years and I'm getting it now. And that's what I'm surviving off of. But I'm prepared for the day that they steal it from me because I don't trust it. But I'm in far better condition than you are with the South African pensions. USA and world leaders are all busy with their own problems. Perfect timing for a tactical point of view. Your thoughts? Well, Bernard Zed, I think you have a fair point. It's a perfect timing, but coinciding with the Davos thing and South Africa being president of the G20, which is asinine to begin with, is odd to say the least. Very odd to say that. So I don't know what they're going on. Hendo's saying, please subscribe to the channel. Please do. Canada's the same toilet. Yes, they are. 119 likes. That's good to say. He asked, Elon is going after VA benefits. He said, no, he's not. No, he's not. No, he's not. That's nonsense. Not true. Not true. Show me the source on that. Smoothie, tell me where you found that statement. Not true. And my pension is not a VA benefit. My pension has nothing to do with the VA. I receive a disability payment because I'm a disabled veteran from the Veterans Administration for my disabilities related to my service. Totally different sort of thing. If my Army pension disappeared, I would still receive a disability payment from the VA, but I'd starve to death because it's nothing. It's a joke. It's almost nothing. It's not even half of my mortgage payment. Yeah, so if you have nothing, then you're cashless. Sounds like a John Wayne movie. Here's a little something extra. Ascari says, are you surprised? I'm surprised by the timing, Ascari West. I'm surprised by the timing. But I'm not surprised that it happened. I'm surprised it took as long as he did. I thought they would sign it before the election, but he didn't do it, hoping to stay over 50%. Julie Edwards says, if I was a landowner and they take it, they can get the money from the useless commies. I just declare bankruptcy. Well, yeah, if you owe money, Julie, but not everybody owes money on their land. Many people own the land outright. Very popular stream tonight. Well, yes, Nick, hopefully. Only if a caterer wants your complex unit, but the RAND tanking will affect. Yeah, okay, PK's answering my question from earlier. Yeah, exactly. Maya Bembridge, what is Ramaphosa and Discovery doing at Davos if this bill has just been signed into law? Why bother? I don't have an answer for that, and I have to think about it. I mean, this news just broke this morning, and I've spent the last 5 hours dealing with it, quickly producing a video with analysis, explaining the impact domestically, foreign direct investment, and the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, and how stupid this was. I put that up, and that video was doing well earlier. Let's take a look at that video, by the way, very quickly here before we get back to the story. 249 people currently here. Be sure to hit the like button if you're not a subscriber. Why not become one? It costs nothing. Subscription is free. If you want to become a paying member of this channel, you're welcome to do that. Thank you so much for that. There's another Flying Boar super chat. Ow, that was right in my ear. He says, if I'm President Trump, I would bring all Afrikaners, English, South Africans to America and give them the U.S. citizenship. Well, yeah, but I don't think that's going to happen, Flying Board. Thank you for the $5 Canadian. That video is at 6,500 now, and it's been up for 3 hours exactly. So that's pretty good video for me, and I've gotten some subscribers from it. So thank you all for that who've become subscribers. Yeah, so that's a good start for the day there. Thank you, Flying Board, for the super chat again. It's very kind of you. Smoothie says, Elon needs to save $2 trillion for Doge. The tax cuts will leave a hell of a deficit, and cuts will be made. Well, the problem, Smoothie, and okay, I'm sorry, this is a distraction from the expropriation. I'll come back to it in a moment, but I need to deal with this. There isn't $2 trillion for Elon Musk to trim, okay? That's a fantasy. Just like Trump is going to end the Ukraine war on day one. If anyone took that for serious, you're a fool. If anyone thinks that Doge is going to remove $2 trillion from the federal budget, you're a fool, because there isn't $2 trillion to remove. Unless Social Security laws and Medicaid, Medicare laws are amended or altered to lower payments or to stop that entitlement from being paid to everyone or full amounts to everyone, we cannot reduce the deficit. Only 18% of the federal budget is discretionary for the president. So blaming presidents for deficits, unless they add to the deficit, is silly. Trump and Biden and Obama added to the deficit, and so did Bush. They went beyond spending more money than they had. That's why they're culpable. But presidents only have 18 cents of every dollar. So if you took the entire budget for the Federal Aviation Administration, the military, the executive branch, the Supreme Courts, everything, the Federal Communications Commission, the Veterans Administration hospitals, all of that stuff, and all of the foreign aid out, you still wouldn't get to $2 trillion. That stuff doesn't cost us $2 trillion. So they can't cut $2 trillion. It's a fantasy, a pure fantasy. They'll be able to cut several hundred million, but they're not going to cut $2 trillion. It's a joke. Bernard says, we have been a digital currency for years. When last did you have wallets for cash? $43 right there. When did I last have cash? Right there. There's cash. Credit cards. There's 14 credit cards between that and what's in this wallet. More credit cards. So I use it all. So when did I last use cash? Yesterday, when I paid for a Red Bull. Paid for a Red Bull in cash. $3 for a Red Bull. That's not bad in a restaurant bar, but that's pretty pricey for a Red Bull. So I last paid cash yesterday. So, all right. And thank you, Flying Boar, for that other super chat. Freelance Kane says maybe he did it because he wasn't invited to Trump's inauguration. Julie Edwards, Titanic sank slower than South Africa. Aloma Ostoys, and Satan is not in our country. South Africa, sorry. Jesus Christ is our president. Hallelujah. We will take our land from satanic leaders. Dream on, please dream on. Take first property, please do. Well, Aloma Ostoys, are you drinking Chibuku? I'd recommend you switch to sweet tea. It's healthier. It's better for you, and you don't say stupid things like that. Miss Krontik says, most calls for equality are disingenuous or just use the means to gain public sympathy and to grift. Yep. And when the banks close down, your savings and money will be gone. You can take over Omaha and kick out Talib and her cronies. Well, she's not in Nebraska. She is in Michigan, so you're going to have to take that over. Afrikaners won't survive the USA life. I don't know about that. All right, so let me catch up on the chat, and I'll get back to the news here that we're going to cover on this. So we need Elon's help. Yeah, well, ANC... Afrikaners are the most adaptable people in the world, says Charles. I agree. This is how it started in Zimbabwe. My husband's college fund was null and void. All his parents' money was gone after the banks closed down. They did not own land. Exactly. Thank you, PK. Thank you. Exactly right. This is the fallacy. This is the foolhardiness of South Africans who don't recognize what's in play here. Black South Africans, white South Africans, colored South Africans, you are not paying attention. Listen to what PK said there. Listen to what I'm telling you. Her husband's college fund gone. Her in-laws' money in the bank, gone. They own no land. They didn't have their land taken. But because of the land invasions, the theft of land from people who bought the land legitimately after Mugabe became president, or became prime minister in 1980, and then president in 1988, 87, they had their land taken from them. And this were the repercussions of it. Not to mention the collapsed industrial sector that occurred. No one could buy tractor tires anymore. So they stopped making them. Tax cuts will add to the gap year on year, so presidents can cause deficits beyond the 18%. I didn't say they couldn't cause deficits, Smoothie. You're not listening. And tax cuts, bullshit. That's bullshit. Tax cuts grow revenue. You must be a leftist living in fantasy land. You need to go look at the data. At the Reagan tax cuts, and look at the Bush tax cuts, and look at the Trump tax cuts. Every single time revenue to the federal government surged within 2 years of the tax cuts. There's an initial drop, of course, until the economy grows. And then because the tax cuts, the economy grows, it takes off like a bat out of hell. The United States takes in over $4 trillion in income tax now. That's 4 times the size of or 2 times the size of the entire federal budget in the year 2000. If they quit spending extra money on bullshit, we'd have a balanced budget. We'd have a surplus. We spent $1.8 trillion in 2000, and now we're spending $7.35 trillion. But we're only taking in $5 trillion between income tax, excise tax, and everything else. So that's just, I'm sorry, Smoothie. That's just horse shit. You're bringing nonsense. Can't back it up with facts. But yes, presidents can do deficits. Payments to people during COVID. Unemployment payments to people that were never paid into a fund. This is where deficits can be added. Adding programs like diversity, equity, inclusion, and funding them. That adds to the deficits. Yes, you're right. Presidents can increase the deficit. I said that. But not because of tax cuts. That's horse shit. Tax cuts increase revenue. Every single time there's a tax cut, there is increased revenue to the federal treasury. It's a matter of fact. Look it up. Go look in Google. All right, so suppose we have to take every penny out of banks. Well, if you make a run on the banks, that's just going to facilitate the collapse. Yep. Can you just elaborate on what that point is a bit more? Of the 18% discretionary, what's included in that? Are the fixed spending that the president doesn't? Correct. You are correct, Jaya. The president cannot cut Social Security benefits. The president cannot cut Medicare, Medicaid. The president cannot cut a number of things that are mandatory that must be spent under federal law. But laws can be changed. They're not in the Constitution. And a Turin is just described. Thank you for that, Turin. So the only thing in the Constitution that we must pay for, the only thing that we have an obligation every year to pay, according to the Constitution, is our debt. And right now we're paying over $1 trillion a year in the interest on that debt every year. $1 trillion. That total was $185 billion just 10 years ago. Now it's 5 times that amount because they put so much debt on there. What else? So this was Kruger's here. Okay. Dogbreaker's back. Good to see you again. The DA are toothless inside the GU. The only opposition is sterilized outside. Yep. If the DA leaves, they will be sterilized and the MK will push the momentum. No, I don't think that's going to happen. And why can't they change the spending to align with political goals? Because it's in law. You have to change the law. And in order to change the law, you have to have a majority in Congress. And we have cowards in Congress. They're unwilling to limit Social Security and Medicare benefits. They're unwilling to cut those benefits. And so we're stuck in a spiral, a death spiral. Okay. We don't own the land. Try stop paying your rates. Huh? Now I need one more whiskey after all this BS comments. Who, from me, Ken, or from the chat? Every time Chinese government struggled, their economy grew. Even if China, it is proven that less government improves the economy. I'm not really sure your point there, but Divol Pretorius, what can we do, sir? As soon as we're going to do something, you say, well, blame us again for... No, nonsense. That's nonsense. Who's blaming you for being racist? That's nonsense, Divol. No, that's nonsense. You're living in 1985. That time is gone. No, it's not going to happen. And Trump, there's a new sheriff in town. What can you do? Well, civic action. It's going to have to put pressure on the government and lawsuits. That's where it's going to change, lawsuits, if it'll change, if the courts aren't captured. I'm sure America could use more conservative voters. Yeah, we could. Bobby B said, I can see why people feel like tax cuts lead to less taxes collected, but that's ignoring the impact lower taxes has, like the more money available for spending investment. That's right, for investment and research and development. Bernard says, Chris, have you tried to draw a few grand in cash to pay for something? Canada, the bank does not want to give you cash. Yes, I have, Bernard. When I go to South Africa, well, not when I go to, but I've gone to South Africa and I've drawn a few $1,000s out of the bank and I get it in rand. I can take the cash out anytime. I can go to the bank right down the street right now and get money. I can get as much money as I want. As long as I have it in the bank, they'll give it to me. Now, if I ask for $1 million, which I don't have anyway, they're not going to have that on hand. But if I ask for 5,000 cash, 10,000, they're going to have that. But if I take 10,000 cash out, that's a transaction gets reported to the Treasury Department. So I have to fill out a form because they have to track that money. Show data trickle down is the real fantasy. I won't pay my employees more. I will invest more offshore. I'm not forced to pay. But see, that's simply a lie too, Smoothie. That's been disproven by Trump reducing the federal corporate tax rate from 35 to 21%, and over $4 trillion was repatriated from abroad to the United States. And we saw record bonuses for rank and file employees, union workers. We saw massive pay increases for people across the board in American corporations. So, that's nonsense. You just live in a world where you think rich people are evil, and that's not the world. That's not the reality. Rich people are way generous. That's the thing. Anyway, so J-Rod, welcome to you. Can I immigrate to Robben Island? Move your wealth assets are not tied to the rand. That's a good idea. What do you think will happen in the DA in the next election? They'll be obliterated unless they take serious action here. If they make a line in the sand, they'll probably survive. But whatever the case is, this is bad for the DA and the Freedom for Plus. Wonder how it's going to affect people who are... What's going on? Is my stream still going here? Content. Let me see. YouTube's tabs keep crashing all day today. It says I'm still active. Let me see. But the tabs just keep crashing. We live now? Oh, did I go? Am I not live anymore? Okay. Did I get cut off? It says I'm live. Okay, I'm live. There you go. What the hell is going on there? Anyway, well, we're live again. Didn't earn it, Nick. That's right. Where is the date? I can't find it. Do a Google search. I'm not going to sit here and play fantasies with you. We're here to talk about South Africa right now. Smoothie, you can come back in the conversation. We're talking about USA for that. Why would I go to Europe? I don't go to Europe either. No thanks. I've lived in Europe, spent many years in Europe. All right, let's get back to the Twitter stuff and then the news articles I want to talk about. So this is from Will Tanner. He shows a picture of a famous farm invasion in Zimbabwe back in the year 2000. Look at how these thugs sit out there with weapons threatening infants and a woman. Like, these people have no conscience. They're just evil people. I remember this very clearly 25 years ago. Just nasty, evil people. So here is the government's announcement. The president's assents to the expropriation bill released earlier today. Yep. There you go. That's on the South African government's website. And that's nothing. And so understanding the implications of the expropriation bill. Well, there's a lot of them here. But that doesn't really explain anything. I don't know why they put that article up there. Anyway, so there's a lot of ramifications for this, folks. It's not good for South Africa in the aggregate. Simply not good. I got to crack my back, folks. Hang on. It's killing me here. A lot of expats have relocated to Portugal, a small number to Malta. I'm not encouraging anybody to leave South Africa or stay in South Africa. That's your decision. Ascari West says, stream is fine. Thank you for that. Gold is king, says Ken Ayrton. Did you hear that Greta said about Germany and Israel? Yeah, the climate hoax showing its true agenda. No, I didn't hear it. Greta Thunberg. I don't really have anything to listen to her. M135 says Black Label matters. Black Label matters. Is that a username or somebody drinking it? Michael von Vijk says, Chris, I don't care. You don't care about what? Thank you guys for telling me I'm live. Yeah, no, the YouTube tabs keep crashing all day. I don't know what's going on there. Charmaine says, now I know why there was a huge exit of rich people the past few months. I'm talking the ones that were earning $500,000 a month and more. Wow. What's your view on what's going to happen with South Africa's bill? Well, Bernard, you must have tuned in late. I've shared that, but I'll cover it again. We'll recap now because we've been at this for a little bit. So my view is the following, ladies and gentlemen. This is the implications of this. Number one, it doesn't please anybody aside from the ANC. And I'm not even sure if it pleases the ANC. There are people in the ANC that probably issues this. As I mentioned, MK Party, not happy about it. Of course, MK Party runs a black supremacy, race hustling, lying piece of filth, garbage press release here with, violations of South African law, insulting the dignity of minorities in South Africa. And then the EFF does the same thing with a bit longer statement, 2 pages long. Neither one of them are happy. Both of them think that all land should be stolen from anybody who has white skin, which is racist on its very basis. So they're not happy. The African Transformation Movement's not happy because they feel the same way. The Democratic Alliance has said they'll fight this, so presumably they're not happy. The Freedom Front Plus is yet to comment on it. They're probably in a lager right now discussing what to do. I reached out to Dr. Groenewald. I haven't heard from him. I did reach out to Athol Trollop from the Action SA, and he did respond in a very serious fashion, basically calling out the ANC for what they are. The immediate impact is that when the markets open tomorrow, I suspect that the Rand will tank. I don't know how far it'll go, but I don't think it's going to do very well. Maybe it might not be tomorrow. It might not be till next week when people begin to realize the full impact of what's going on here. This is going to lead to land invasions. And there are going to be a lot of them, so many that the police can't remove all the people. And there are going to be home invasions as a consequence of this. I mean, think about that scumbag from the UK who walked into people's homes and thought he was being funny for social media stuff. You're going to have people walking your home saying, well, it's mine now. It's just, we can have it. We don't have to be compensated for this. That's going to happen. It's going to happen. The value of property will decline. And I'm talking about land in particular, and apartments and homes and things like that. Anybody can take your land just because they want. And so people might say, well, you're being hyperbolic. This is hyperbole. It's not hyperbole. It's a very real scenario, very real one that can happen. There's nothing to stop it. There's nothing in this law other than the fact it's unconstitutional, but then the courts have to rule. Supreme Court of Appeal or the Constitutional Court has to throw this law out, but someone has to get there with it first. And then we have to make sure that those courts aren't captured. But with people like Julius Malema as part of the Judicial Services Commission, which selects and confirms judges, good luck with that. I mean, the courts have been inconsistent at best. I mean, the North Gauteng High Court said that the tourism fund, which excluded minority South Africans from getting tourism payments during the COVID scam, was constitutional when it was race-based, which makes it unconstitutional. It was overturned by the Supreme Court of Appeal, but by then all the money was gone. And in this case, this law will be overturned if the courts aren't captured. But in the meantime, how many homes will be destroyed? How much farmland will be destroyed? How many assets will be taken by government officials to make you be silent and not criticize them? This is a scary, scary proposition. This is in violation of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, for which the South African government constantly refers to human rights. They're worried about human rights in Gaza and the Israelis destroying human rights and human rights and human rights. Well, you are stealing the human rights of South Africans. I've read Section 17 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Property rights are sacrosanct. You cannot do this. Now, there's no obligation under the law to adhere to that, but South Africa, under the African National Congress, is a signatory to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They are also the ones who promulgated the 1996 Constitution, which, as I've shown, clearly says you cannot take property in this fashion. The law is unconstitutional. So there'll be a legal challenge to this. And that might steady the markets. But the moment that the South African government attempts to apply this law by expropriating property of any sort, whether it's stocks, bonds, medical aid, retirement funds, by pushing it from here to there, we have to take money for 10% of the retirement funds. We're going to expropriate that to use it to fund black enterprises. The moment they do that, then the markets tank. The value of property goes down. People stop paying back their loans. People invade properties. That's going to happen already. This is scary. Scary stuff. Scary stuff. Jolly Somali is in prison in Korea. I didn't hear about that. Okay. If the cash in the pension before 65 years old, SARS will hit me 35%. They took 36% off my dead brother's pension and 3 years salary insurance payout. Bear in mind, he was taxed at source whilst working. Yeah, no, Nick, you're right. It's horrible. The Concord also, commies don't think we have any hope. God is deaf to my prayers. Good Lord, sorry to hear that. Craig Adams, welcome to you. Esty, the movie will play out like Mel Gibson's The Patriot. Ken Anderson says the stupid law will be repealed by the Constitutional Court. I think so too. But Ken, unless a lower court stays this with an injunction, the law will be implemented right now at this very moment. And by the way, it's not national. It's national, provincial, and local. Your local councilors in Nelson Mandela Bay can come take your property right now. They can come take it legally. Now, you'll probably win, but they'll squander your money. They'll squander your property. It'll be destroyed. You'll be destitute. They can do that legally right now. Local government, local, provincial, and national government all have the authority to expropriate your property, land, stocks, bonds, cash, retirement funds. And the scenario I just gave about, well, we got to take 10% from pension funds and stick it over here to fund black businesses, that's a very real possibility. We're already seeing it with this 100 billion rand black tax, 3% of the profit of corporations to fund black businesses who are their competition to drive them out of business. Slippery Pickle, good to see you again. Bernard says, just joined. Thanks for the recap. My pleasure, Bernard, and I hope it didn't come across as snappy. I've covered it a couple times, but it's okay to recycle the stuff because people come and go. So thank you for asking the question. Wild Bear Prepper, it's been a while. Chinese will steal South Africa the same way they stole Panama. Yeah, I think you're right. So property lawyers will be redundant. Well, not in the short term. Maybe down the road. Majority rule in South Africa was a massive mistake, says Miss. Yep. This won't break South Africa resilient, says Smoothie. Well, I hope you're right, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it. But by the way, I'm not putting any more money in South Africa. I'm done. My investment in South Africa is done. Null and void, finished and clear. No more pennies, no more dollars go into South Africa as of today. Nope. I will scrub my investments and see if I have anything that has, even in mutual funds, see if I have anything that has South African property, and I will divest of it. I will begin divesting in South African assets today. Well, tomorrow, because it'll be end of business day when I get done here. I'm done. No investments in South Africa. I'm not running the risk that racists will steal my effort to help South Africans overcome poverty and raise their economy. If the ANC wants people to live in poverty, I can't stop them. You won't ever afford to retire in South Africa if you're not loaded with cash. The more rand drops, the less you can buy at this point. I can wipe my butt with rand, says Ravani. Okay. What else we got here? Unused land will be first. What is unused land? Land that's being held for conservation purposes is not unused land. If you're not farming land so that the soil is enriched over a period of years and that the water table is recharged, that's not unused land. Yep. Yes, the National Party gave away South Africa a silver platter, just like the DA did by joining the Government of National Unity. Drian is back from Botswana. If all the parties are against EWC, why don't they just call for a vote of no confidence? Well, Drian, that's an interesting topic you've just raised. Maybe it's time for a vote of no confidence against Cyril Ramaphosa. Yeah, I think that the DA with its 23%, roughly 21%, the MK party with its 14% takes it to, let's say, 35%. And then the EFF with its 9% takes it to roughly 45%. Freedom Front Plus with 2%, 47%. The PA with 2%, 49%. And we still need somebody else. So who's going to bring that coalition together? Yep, that's what you need for vote of no confidence. It's not a simple plurality. It's a majority you have to have. Yep. What else we got here in the chat? So sounds like you are briefing all the thugs about what they have the right to do. No, Meerkat, I'm just telling you, I'm warning you what they can do. Take your firearms away and leave people defenseless. That's true. Yep. Because that's property. 3% already on top of corporate tax. It's beyond burdensome and greedy. This is another hammer blow. Exactly, Nick. Yep. Ken says, yep, Chris, I agree, but despite the cost, you would win in court. No, I think you would, but that's if the courts aren't captured. I mean, we saw, like I said, what happened with the tourism fund. My back is killing me here, folks. Sorry. Ken says, I don't blame you in the least. Oh, by not putting my money in South Africa. Yeah, okay. What about land rotation? Land must be given. Well, Charles, that's what I just said. See, the voice of reason. Charles Van Onselen is thinking the same things I'm thinking. Foreign companies believe in mass. Yeah, I think they will eventually. Chris has no confidence in a vote of no confidence. I think that's a fair statement. I have no confidence in a vote of no confidence. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's do a poll. Start a poll, and here's your chance. A lot of people here, so chance to answer it. So, will the Rand sink against the dollar. Okay, will the rand sink against the dollar over the next week? Good Lord, my typing is terrible here. I got next spelled as nest, like I'm a bird. All right, so there you go, folks. There's a poll. We put a poll up. We should have been doing this all along for this chat, but there's a poll. Here's your chance to answer it. Got 258 people here. Feel free to respond to that one. Look, I don't want to be Cassandra, and I'm not being Cassandra. This might very well just be a ploy by the ANC, and nothing comes of it. But do you trust the ANC? Do you trust them? By the way, the Government National Unity, let's talk about that now. Let's shift our focus to the Government National Unity, which includes the Democratic Alliance and Freedom Front Plus, the Patriotic Alliance, and others. So the DA has been a loud and vocal opponent of expropriation without compensation, and rightly so. The Freedom Front Plus has been a loud and vocal opponent of expropriation without compensation, and rightly so. In fact, this statement by Dr. Peter Groenewald,
If any
in Parliament. This is in Parliament this past year. This is off of TikTok. This is Dr. Groenewald in Parliament. Listen to this. This is their position, yet they haven't stated anything today so far.
If anybody thinks in South Africa that you can take the land without compensation, you're living in a dream. Let me put it quite frankly to you. If you want to start a civil war in South Africa, do that. Do that. And I told you before, that don't misjudge.
Yeah, don't misjudge the Afrikaner of the Boer. That's what he said. That's Dr. Peter Groenewald. Yeah, that was last year, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, so let's talk about this Government National Unity. So the Democratic Alliance did not draw a line in the sand under Bella. What has the GNU brought us? The GNU has brought us the following. It's brought us the Bella Bill, which is going to destroy education. It has brought us a 100 billion rand tax on businesses to fund black businesses, racist, unconstitutional legislation. It's a policy right now. And now it's brought us expropriation without compensation. Next on the agenda, the national health insurance, which will completely destroy the country. The two of these things will just collapse. The whole system is going to collapse under its own weight. Discovery thinks that they're clever and they're going to survive because they have ties to the ANC. Ain't going to work, Discovery. You are going to go under. They like their monopoly. Discovery likes it. They own over half the insurance market for medical insurance. They love that. It's a monopoly for them. But they're going to go down the tubes just like everybody else if this stuff continues. The minority of this country work hard and make a plan. The majority are undereducated and only watch mainstream media. Well, a fair portion of them anyway. ANC won't deliberately collapse their economy. They're not too bright, but this one... No, they are very stupid. First off, they're making things incredibly worse. We have 3 times as many black South Africans living in abject poverty and exponentially higher percentage of whites living in abject poverty, but the number is relatively small because there aren't that many whites. But as a percentage of those living in poverty compared to 1990, it's wow, much larger. But 3 times many black South Africans living in poverty. We have informal settlements all over the place that didn't exist in 1994. We have unemployment that's off the charts, youth unemployment, women unemployment. We have gender-based violence. We have crime, collapsing infrastructure. You're saying the ANC is not dumb, but you cannot continue to not invest in the economy and let the roads, the rails, the electricity, security, judicial process all fail. It all comes back to the rod eventually. There's only so much to steal. It's very short-sighted. Ken says that's not a threat. It's a fact. I hope all of you are at least investing a little bit in crypto. I don't do crypto. I'm feeling something about Uprising South Africa. Joe Emilio is live. Is he? What's Joe Emilio doing live? Okay. Where's he live at? On YouTube? Let me see if Joe Emilio is live. Maybe a lot of people are going live on this issue now. Let me pull up my YouTube and see what's going on. If anybody else. I have a subscription to Joe Emilio, and it's not showing me. Oh, that's an ugly outfit that lady's wearing. Not showing me Joe. So President Trump is currently attending a presidential parade, it says. I wonder if that's still going on. Joe Emilio. Okay, let's see. It doesn't show Joe as live. So, no, it doesn't show Joe as live. I'll click on Joe's channel and see. It doesn't show him as live. We go to his live. Joe Emilio's not live. Where are you getting that from? Where are you getting that from? You trying to do something on this channel? Anyway, you can scan and pay. Luno, I don't know that. Smoothie is, who is Joe Emilio and why is Chris Ehlers telling me to go watch him and leave the stream? That's a good question. Joe Emilio is an American comedian married to a South African living in the Western Cape. He is a protege of Barry Hilton. Yep, Barry Hilton. So if you know Barry Hilton, my cousin. Off to Joe, says Smoothie. ANC doesn't give a crap about growing the economy as long as there's still taxpayer money in the pocket. Correct. That's exactly right. That's what's going on here. As long as there's money to steal and pilfer, that's all they care about. Folks, this is pretty scary stuff here. I mean, honestly, pretty scary stuff. And I'm not trying to be a Cassandra here, but is this the line in the sand for the Democratic Alliance? Will they continue to be participating in the government national unity? And if they leave, what happens? Well, a lot of possibilities. One possibility is that the ANC continues to rule as a plurality government with 40%. They're the largest party. But every time they want something done, they have to go to Parliament and they have to convince or buy enough votes from the different parties to get it passed. So what will happen is that you'll likely get legislative gridlock with an ANC plurality party because I doubt they're going to form a coalition with MK. Jacob Zuma wants to destroy and subsume and eat the ANC from the inside. So there's no way that the ANC in its right mind would invite MK to be part of what they're doing. The EFF is nothing but a pain in the ass, and they hate Zuma, Cyril Ramaphosa and Zuma. So it's highly unlikely that the EFF, which is losing influence and voters on a daily basis, would be invited. And even if they did, they don't have enough votes between the two of them. They'd still need someone like the African Transformation Movement or someone else. So it's not impossible, but it's highly unlikely, in my view, that the ANC would have a coalition with either EFF or MK or both of them. And I covered all this last year when I talked about potential coalitions. You can find that on my channel. There's a video, my analysis of all this, and I correctly predicted what would happen. A grand coalition, which would end up being called the Government National Unity. That's what I predicted. So they have 70% of the vote in Parliament now, but with the DA falls off, that's 21%. That takes them down. It takes them down. They're not there. So they got a problem. Anyway, Smoothie's back. I didn't know you didn't leave, man. How much money has been transferred last week from South Africa? I don't know, Charles. That's a good question. We should look at currency transfers. I wonder if that data is available publicly. And the scientist says it looks like the DA doesn't have a line in the sand. Well, they said they're going to fight in court. So that may give the DA a reprieve. They may not get a lot of flack because they're saying, well, we're doing something. We're going to the courts. We're fighting this in the courts. We can't leave the government national unity. Somebody's got to govern South Africa. We're doing good things in home affairs, in agriculture, and in communications. Okay. So, I mean, look, the DA probably gets a free pass here. The Freedom Front Plus might be under a bit more pressure because Freedom Front Plus gets a lot of rural support, a lot of overwhelmingly Afrikaner support, and they might find themselves in a sticky wicket here by staying in this government. But they're going to have to say something soon. Action SA, let me read that statement from Athol Trollop. I'll give you that again, folks. So Athol Trollop says, hang on a second here. Athol Trollop said, this mad ANC communist ideology has just been signed into law by a president without a majority and who has not only emasculated his government and national unity partners, he is finally going to destroy our economy and send us off the fiscal cliff just like Mugabe did in Zimbabwe. Wow, we are led. That is Athol Trollop's response to the announcement that the bill was signed in law. So that's from Action SA. T. Motibi says, no, I think Julius is now desperate enough to coalesce. You might be right about that. I'm sorry, Motibi. You may very well be correct about that. He is desperate. I mean, you see him attacking the Patriotic Alliance. I mean, what are you going to gain from that? Do you think that the Patriotic Alliance's voters, who are overwhelmingly colored and in the Western Cape, are going to glom on to the ANC or the EFF? Michael Forster just subscribed. Thank you, Michael. Do you think they're actually going to join with the EFF? You're not going to get those voters. Just like you're not going to get rural Afrikaners to vote for the EFF. Come on, silly. But yeah, you're right. They're in trouble. And so Malema might show some humility and actually form a coalition, but they still don't have enough votes. That takes them 49%. They need more votes. So there you go. Maybe this is a manipulation by the financial market by Squirrel to make a wad of money. I don't think so. He's got plenty of money. He doesn't need to pull that crap off. Gerhard de Jager says, Chris, do you think Trump will get his nominations through before the end of February? Yeah, well, he's already gotten some through. Marco Rubio was confirmed by the Senate 99-0. 100%, it was a 100% vote. So that was pretty good for Trump. That was Monday night already. Monday night. So, yeah, he'll get, but when you say get his nominations through, there's a lot of nominations. I mean, the president has a lot of nominations, a few thousand of them that have to go through. So many of them will go through. I think that some of the big ones which are contentious, like Tulsi Gabbard, may hang around for a while. So we'll see what happens with that. But, yeah, these things will go through. Absolutely. Absolutely going to go through. So get Trump to help and hope for the best, Anthony. Well, there you go. There you go. Well, that's something. Odin's Viking says DA is pathetic. Well, we will see if the DA is pathetic and what they're made of, if they have a pair of testicles or if they're just eunuchs in the government of national unity, which a lot of people think they are. They think they're eunuchs. UK finds itself in the same perfect storm, says Bernard. Yeah, things are bad in Germany. Yesterday, a 41-year-old man and a 2-year-old toddler, and there's another subscriber. Thank you, Zach. Ignayotovich. Well, that's interesting. Ignayotovich, that's a heck of a surname, man. Thanks for joining. A 41-year-old man and a 2-year-old toddler murdered by an illegal criminal alien invader from Afghanistan, who one of these clowns that likely is in the country because of Angela Merkel's ridiculous policies, whether she let him in or not. He's there because of the tolerance they take for criminals into their country. And so a toddler is dead now. I heard from Byron Shepard that was a Jew. I didn't know that. I haven't read that anywhere. It's been covered up. The initial reports by the German media said, well, this is in a park. This is in broad daylight, mind you. Broad daylight, in a peaceful day, in a park, in a safe city. Murdered by this not lunatic, but this evil freaking scumbag, anti-white, anti-Christian, criminal alien invader. And the media well, people have been warned that it's not safe to go after dark into these areas, these parks. That park is a drug den. That's horseshit. That's a total lie. Covering up the nonsense. Covering up the nonsense. A 2-year-old murdered. Surely at this point, if we turn off Parliament and just coast on municipal government, I'll be better than the status quo. Gus says, 21,300 subscribers. Gus, you changed your avatar. I just noticed that. Let me see how we're doing. Well, we're almost at 21,400. That video I did earlier is gaining some subscribers. Pretty cool. What exactly what Joe would say? Huh? You talking about Joe Biden? Sure. What else? It was a Muslim. Yeah, it was an Afghan Muslim. Yep, you're correct. But they covered it up. The initial German reports, which I read in German, said that this was a crime-ridden drug den, which it's not. That's a lie. Drian says, imagine Cyril gets kicked out and before the new president scraps the law, they appropriate Pala Pala. Wouldn't that be funny? Well, actually, right now, one action that could be taken is that a party could introduce a vote of no confidence, one of the parties in Parliament, if they're in session. They can introduce a vote of no confidence and, people can vote for it. So, wow. If it happens instantly, then Cyril's in trouble. But if it happens, it gets announced and it's going to be next Thursday, then Cyril will find a way to stay in. There's Brett Sessoms' membership. Thank you, Brett. 38 months, man. South African government can now buy any property. Buy. They can take. There's no buying involved. Millions of Russians murdered by the Bolsheviks also believe God is in control. Yeah, it's true. That's true. The millions of not just Russians, but Ukrainians killed in Holodomor. The Jews executed. Yep. Gerhard says, my son works on a water visa. Oh, H2 in Texas. He's worried South Africa might have problems with Trump now in charge. Well, he's right to be worried. And South Africa should have problems. South Africa, with the implementation of this law, is no longer eligible for the Africa Growth and Opportunity Act. And once again, I'll show you what that requires. The Africa Growth and Opportunity Act, which gives South Africa duty-free access to our marketplace for most of your products and goods and services, you're no longer eligible for it. And here's why. This is why. You cannot do what the ANC is doing here. You have to respect property rights. So here we go. Let me show you this very quickly. We showed it a couple times in the stream, but here it is again. So the AGOA Act, Section 104 of the Act, which is public law in the United States, says the president is authorized to designate a sub-Saharan African country as eligible if the president determines that the country has established or is making continual progress towards establishing a market-based economy that protects private property rights. That protects private property rights. Well, you're also supposed to introduce economic policies to reduce poverty, a system combat corruption and bribery, and protect internationally recognized worker rights. like the right of association, which means unions. So you must respect property rights, and that's not what's happening. Brett Sessons with a super chat. Thank you, Brett. That's not what's happening here. Property rights are not being respected. This is the opposite of that, and so they're not eligible. Zimbabwe's not in AGOA, and rightly so, and neither should South Africa be. The articles I've read is this government has to provide just compensation, but the government can buy anything in the name of public. What? The EA won't do anything. I'm not sure where you're going, Brett, what the articles are saying. I've read the law when it was proposed and what was put out there when it was signed or passed by Parliament. This allows for zero compensation to take property, not land, but property. And the government simply has to adhere to a couple standards which are easily ignored or justified. Yes, AGOA should be canceled for South Africa, but I've been arguing that since 2018 when this bill was introduced. And they've also made themselves ineligible with their stances in against our national interests when it comes to national security. So there's all kinds of problems. Thank you for that, Brett. $10. That's a nice super chat, man. Thank you. As we get close to the end of the month, because it's been a slow super chat month. Yeah, in fact, let me take a look and see how we're doing on super chats and revenue for the month. Come on. A little faster. Come on, YouTube. So slow. Look at this. Oh my God. Seriously, that's really slow. I'm going to have to stop the page and reload it. This happens with him. All right, so we got 152 votes on that poll. YouTube is not loading the page. That's unbelievable. All right, so I'm going to end that poll, and 91% of people think that the Rand is going to decline over the next week. Okay, so let's do this poll. Are you concerned? Does the EWC law concern you? Okay. Cause you concern. Does the EWC cause you concern? That's a better way to say it. Hey, Reddick, thank you for your membership. 34 months. Might be a catalyst for action. It might be. My goodness, this typing is terrible, man. Concern, and it's EWC. I got WEC. It looks like something world. Okay, yes, no, a bit. Just white noise. Okay, so here you go. Does EWC cause you concern? Well, that was a tough poll to get out there. Hori Basher says, see South Africa cozying up to China, which is a slippery slope. Well, they've been doing that for a long time. So this law basically allows the government to do what it wants. Correct, Brett. It does. The government can take your land. Now, it violates the Constitution, so we're going to have to see what comes of this. But it clearly violates the Constitution. If you want to stay in South Africa, you better learn some good Chinese swear words. There's no such thing as Chinese. It's a nationality. You need to learn Mandarin or Cantonese. Oh, yeah, Erica's. I know about Erica's. They're flowers, and Erica knows that. I bought her from the Botanical Gardens down there in the Western Cape. I bought her a book about Erica's. Lovely book. Got one for myself, too. Found it interesting. What did Ruvani say? Ruvani said something. I missed something. 9% of voters are not so smart. And what is Ken is saying? Yeah, well, if you cancel AGOA, it's going to hurt South Africans. That's a fact. But, I mean, so South Africa should get a free pass because it violates human rights, violates, basic standards of acceptance. How did the poll come up before you typed it? It didn't. It just may appear that way on screen. It may just appear that way because YouTube's probably messing with my stream. We got over 2,000 people tuned into this live, so thank you for tuning into that. So once again, folks, a recap of what's been going on here. Today, South Africa's government, the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, signed into law the expropriation without compensation law, which allows the government to expropriate any property at any time from anybody, and they can give a flimsy excuse for why they have to do it. What this will likely mean is, in the short term, probably not a whole lot, other than it will affect the exchange rate and will send shivers through foreign direct investment community and also through the markets, which will likely have short-term effects in South Africa. However, it all hinges on if and when the law is actually taken into effect. But the problem is this: the law is now a tool for the national government. That's a problem, but also provincial and local government. Can you imagine? Panyazi Lesufi now has the authority to take your home. If you live in Gauteng, he can come take your home. He can take your Land Cruiser. He can take your tractor. He can take your jewelry. Not going to happen there. He can confiscate your retirement funds on things that are based in Gauteng. Panyazi Lesufi. So the impact of this is manifest in so many different areas: in finance, in real estate, in employment, in property rights, jobs. The list goes on and on. And beyond that, there are other issues here. This is now what the government of national unity is. It's a liberty-sapping, property-stealing, racist, communist, socialist government, of which the Democratic Alliance, the Freedom Front Plus are willing participants. So this is either a line in the sand in which the Democratic Alliance and others stand up, or it's a disaster for South Africa. I suspect a disaster. So, as I've said all along, the biggest implication of this law becoming a law is the following. This means, so I'm looking over here, I'm way behind. You guys are way behind me. YouTube, you're really messing with my stream. That's at least 10, 15, 20 seconds. This is on a 4-second delay, and I'm looking at myself a full minute behind over here. A full minute behind. Wow. That's some serious harassment from YouTube. This video, you're watching me 1 minute behind when I'm speaking right now. That is not the setting I put in this video. The setting in this video was 4 seconds. Ultra low latency. Wow, that's almost a minute behind. No wonder it looks like I'm doing something and the poll comes up before the polls come in, because you're hearing me behind time. My apologies, folks, but you're listening to me in the past. Wow, YouTube, thank you so much. I had a hard time getting my video on expropriation online earlier. It would not let me load it. I mean, let me load it, but it wouldn't finish reviewing it and approving it. It took over an hour before it finally said that it was okay. So, wow, let's take a look at that video now. So what's going on with that? So that video was at like 6,500 earlier, I think it was. And now, in the last 40 minutes or so, it's gone to 7,800 views. So it's still climbing. It's on a glide path. And I'm grateful for that. But yeah, so that's what's happening here. You guys are behind me because YouTube is playing games. Anyway, so I'll try to keep going here, even though you guys are in the past. Lesufi will only take your school. Don't worry. I don't know about that, man. I don't know about that. Smoothie says, Chris, I respect your life choices. I'm an ally. I don't think it was a life choice. People sometimes don't have a choice. It's just who they are. Is there anything left in Gauteng, says Val Cooper? Well, my cottage is still there in Northcliffe. It better be in place, man. I don't want them to expropriate that. I mean, I have wonderful company and a great chef, and I feel very comfortable, and it's like being at home when I'm there with Marilyn and Lindsay. So I don't want that expropriation happening, man. No expropriation. Yeah, it's Back to the Future, Chris style. Yeah, it's Brianki Osama style. Brianki Osama style. We're responding to the past. That's right. You're asking questions in the past, and I'm trying to answer them in the future. Oh, my goodness. If you're looking for a brother husband, I know just the guy. What the hell? Pretoria's all right. The ANC can appropriate these. Nick, you guys are killing me with that. Anyway, I'm not even live. I'm like 35 seconds behind. Also says 135. Brett just gave a super chat. We all knew the ANC were Yakuza. Like, well, if you had any question about whether they're gangsters, you have answered that question. It's cray, folks. It's absolutely crazy. Listen, this is some scary stuff here. Some bad mojo. William Fundeveld says, is the country done? Is it over? Or is there still a real chance of turning this hot mess around, feeling really depressing? Okay, William, not Willem. Let me just calm everybody down here. Okay, let me sit down, slow down. I'll slow my pace, slow my intonation. All right. it is bad news for South Africa. However, many things could mitigate it. First off, William, they're not coming for your house tomorrow. They're not coming for, who was it earlier about their flat? They're not coming for your flat. They have the authority to do it. And the most concerning part I would have is that instead of the national government acting on this, the provincial and the local governments, and that's where I think we have a problem. If you have created an enemy on the local municipal council, I'd be quiet, because that's the purpose of this legislation. It's to kowtow you so you don't speak out against the government of the day. If you do, they'll come after you. So I'd just back off in the near term. But there's all kinds of possibilities here. The government of national unity could collapse, which would lead to a plurality government, which would be paralyzed, which would be good. They couldn't produce any more liberty-sapping legislation, would not get through, because you'd have to get votes from other parties to help you get legislation passed rather than your coalition. And this will go to the courts. AfriForum, Solidarity will definitely take this to the courts. Maybe DRSA, others, friends of the court will join this. It's opposed by so many people and strange bedfellows. MK, EFF, DA, Freedom Front Plus, they all oppose this bill. African Transformation Movement opposed it for different reasons. So it's likely to face court challenges. And on its merit, it clearly violates the Constitution. The only way this law is legal is if the Constitution is amendment. The ANC has 70% of the votes, but if you think that the DA and the Freedom Front Plus and the PA are going to vote for this as an amendment to the Constitution, ain't going to happen. So, yeah, anyway. Don't panic. Don't be depressed, but be shocked and be prepared. Yep. If you are 6 months behind on your rates and taxes, better pay those in your TV license ASAP. Why? Odin will never stop speaking his mind. Come and take it. Yeah, well, I haven't stopped speaking my mind for the most part. I did self-censor on a few things over the COVID, because the moment you uttered a word, you just lost your broadcast, and there's no way around it. And it's too important to get the word out to people. So, but yeah, I pretty much speak my mind. Why is Ramaphosa signing all these controversial acts in the law? What's next? Well, NHI, National Health Insurance, is next. And why? Because they're arrogant. They're arrogant. This was always their plan. This is why the ANC, I said, had to be driven down to less than 33%. 33% or worse would be an ideal outcome, because then they would have no power. But with 40%, which, by the way, I predicted going back to November 2021, I correctly predicted 38 to 42%. They came in at 40%. At 40%, they're still arrogant enough and powerful enough, and they're the largest party, that they think they can do what they want. And they are. And the DA is just rolling over like little biatches and getting bum screwed right up the backside. So that's the problem. That's the problem. Do you think Trump will address? I hope so, Chantel. Somebody reached out to him and managed to pass him, a note about the farm murders years ago, and he did a tweet. This requires a statement from the Trump administration. And quite frankly, this would be a perfect test case for it. Trump's foreign policy and people ignoring equality, freedom, and equal treatment under the law for everybody, black, white, brown, Christian, Muslim, Jew. Perfect case for the Trump administration to make a big stink about it right here. The Trump administration tomorrow should issue a press release or a proclamation from President tonight saying that South Africa has been removed from the African Growth and Opportunity Act. We are dismayed at their law, which undermines basic property rights, something that is enshrined in their constitution in Section 25. Expropriating property without just and equitable compensation is a violation of their own constitution, and it violates the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to which South Africa is also signatory, and it is in stark violation of the African Growth and Opportunity Law. Therefore, they are withdrawn. Their products can no longer enter the United States with duty-free status. They will now be imposing a tariff. On top of this, I will be imposing a punitive tariff on South Africa within 180 days if this law is not abrogated or rescinded or struck down by the courts. You have 180 days to remove this law, or you will be facing a 50% tariff on South African products. Boom! That's what I would do. Well, no, not really, Rubani, because we have a bunch of countries that are getting a GOA status, and they're not really doing anything they're supposed to. We just look the other way. Yep, it was a dumb move. ANC wanted to gain votes with this. They have no big picture thinking. They only care about enriching themselves. And while they're doing that, destroying the country, says PK. Yep. Val Cooper, this will be 20 years since we moved out of the old Transvaal made good move. All right, Val. Okay. Ravani says, oh my God, Ramaphosa fucked us. Some folks at Sandy Bay named after a fish. Huh? Smithy said, we're Mickey Mouse country, so USA won't even notice what we do. Maybe. Our only hope is that Iran, China, Russia pisses Trump off so much that Trump comes after all their allies. Yeah, good point. Yeah, because of the relationship between the ANC and Tehran, the ANC and Beijing, you could very well find yourself in collateral damage, and Trump will be justified to do it. There's Tian Engelbrecht. Hey, Tian. 35 Rand Super Chat. Thank you for that, brother. Hopefully with them having that kind of authority, they're able to evict the right people from the lawless areas in Gauteng. Well, I've reached out to a couple people in South Africa, politicians, to see if I can get them to come on tomorrow. One can't. Okay. I might have Neil De Beer on tomorrow to talk about this. Okay. He's checking his schedule. All right. It'll be tomorrow evening if he comes on. So I've asked Neil De Beer to come on the program tomorrow. If he's able to do it, we'll have him on. The reality is that large majority of the white population cannot leave. That's true. We are in for the long run. We cannot be defeatists, giving up. Well, don't give up. No, never give up. Never surrender. No, don't give up. I'm not suggesting anyone should do that. I'm also not trying to be a Debbie Downer and depress people. I'm just trying to tell you, straight shooter, what's coming out of this, what the potentialities are, my analysis of what could happen and what might not happen. So, just because bad things are happening and someone tells you that doesn't mean that they're a downer, and I'm definitely not a downer. Gerhard says, my daughter and her husband moved in February 2024 to Thailand, Phuket, and I think I will move too. Well, Thailand's probably not a bad idea. I mean, it's a decent country. I thought they said Ireland at first. Ireland has gone to shit. Ireland it's been invaded by 1/5 of the people there now are criminal alien invaders, and the government is catering to them while they rape and assault and break into homes and piss and moan about Ireland, about, all the teachers are white, and if you don't speak Gaelic, you're disadvantaged. Well, no shit. If I go to freaking Burkina Faso, I'm at a disadvantage too. If I go to Niger State, if I go to an Ibadan area of Nigeria, I don't speak Ibadan. I don't speak Igbo. I don't. Come on, this is stupid. You go to Ireland, learn Gaelic and English, or get the frick out. No one asked you to go there. Stop going there with your broken cultural norms from your broke ass country and take your stuff back. Or go to Ireland, accept the norms and values and mores of Ireland, adhere to them, and learn the language. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But the tolerance of the political left has allowed these people, that's right, black, white, and brown, these people, Christian, Muslim, Jews, to invade our countries at will and demand that we change. Look at this clown in Japan. I shouldn't be celebrating Japanese holidays. They must celebrate my Sharia holidays. Excuse me? Screw you. Oh, Rodell's here. Whoever blesses Israel will be blessed, and whoever curses Israel will be cursed. Numbers 24-9. We need to pray. This country needs to turn back to God. Well, I don't disagree with that. Vena Tutoa, yeah, I'll reach out to him. Yeah, it's a bit late now, 10 o'clock, but let me see real quick. I don't know if he wants to do it. There we go. So I'll reach out to him because he hasn't been on for a while. All right, it's cool. What's that? Senor Lamola. Are you Ronnie Lamola? Senor Lamola? Good to see you there. Thanks for joining. Gabrielle, it's like in Italy. There is suburbs where you can just don't go after 6 p.m. Well, that should not be the case. Should not be the case. I would not go to Luton or Leicester at all, let alone after dark. I think my last trip to Leicester occurred a few years ago during the Rugby World Cup. It was already invaded and overrun by foreigners, none of whom were English or British and respected anything. They threw the rubbish on the streets. They acted like fools. The day was interrupted by prayer calls. I mean, this isn't Riyadh. It's ridiculous. This isn't Tunis. It isn't Beirut. Anyway. Freelance Kate says, am I right in thinking that the only person who will benefit from land expropriation is Sierra Best? No. Okay, first off, it's not land expropriation. Let's be clear, Freelance Kate. It's expropriation without compensation of property, which includes land. So let's be clear about that. This is a situation that affects much more than just land. And Cyril is not the only person to benefit from it. All ANC politicians can benefit it instantaneously. In fact, the DA could benefit from it. The DA, which rules the Western Cape, which rules multiple municipalities, could use this law to take property away. They could. And that's why I've always said that the party of the day, the party in power, will use the law as a cudgel, as a tool against the political opposition. Speak out against us, you'll pay. That's what I said. Brett, give another super chat. Wow, Brett, any dangerous areas in Germany? Oh, yes. There are dangerous areas in Germany and in Sweden. So Sweden, until the 1980s, 1990s, didn't have a term in Swedish for gang rape because they didn't experience gang rape, by and large. I mean, something just didn't happen. Rape existed, of course, in Swedish language. There was a word for rape, but not gang rape. But Sweden, which has a population approaching 9 million now, of which well over 1 million plus are not Swedish, has real problems. Norway, you think of Norway, a Nordic country, 16% of the people are foreigners. 16%. That's outrageous. What are they doing there? And I saw it last night watching a movie called Number 24 on Netflix. They filled the audience at this. In the movie, there's a partisan veteran from the what's his name? Anyway, from the Second World War, most decorated Norwegian, and he's in his 90s, just before he dies. He goes to this place and gives a speech, and all these people ask questions about what the guerrillas did, the partisans did during the war, and all this stuff, and the crowd, the audience is full of Arab, Africans, mixed race people. What the hell is this? What are all these people doing in Norway? Nobody's inviting Norwegians to go hang out in the tens of thousands and millions in Pakistan or Uganda, places like that. It's crazy. We don't need people to help us find a way. Still love our country, yep. So want us to immigrate and give up. Yes, the ANC, I think, does want that, but a lot of people can't. The bill isn't talking about all property. Not true. That's a lie, Smoothie. That's a lie. You're factually incorrect. It's property. And the Constitution says property. It's always said property. Yep. Oh, come on. It's doing it again. YouTube is proving to be such a pain today. My tab just started acting up. Let me try to open it up again over here. Okay, there we go. Is it up? The poll is still going. Okay. Okay, what's going on over here now? So Swedish companies were the first to pull out of South Africa when the sanctions came in. That's true, they were. But they're also the ones that funded ANC academics and such. Michael says I should talk with Brickmerka, okay? You can apply for asylum at any time. It's a question, whether it be granted. Like I've said before, the law will be taken into people's own hands. Law and order means folk all one, so why should anybody uphold it? Yep. Anyway, yeah, so there you go. All right. So that poll's got 137 votes in it. Let's go ahead and close that one, okay? So 19% of folks aren't that concerned. So almost 1 out of 5 people aren't that concerned there. So that's about 30 people. So the UK is giving us a run for our money in terms of insane totalitarian socialist legislation. Well, William van der Velde, you were 100% correct. And the United States was on the same path, but Donald Trump has ended that. It's all over. The party is over for the leftists. I'm loving it. It's fantastic. Yeah. Wow, what a poll. Elizabeth says you must just not answer them. Answer who? Yes, property is specified in the bill. It says property. Yeah, it's not land. Yep, it's property. Let me find the News 24 article because I think that's the one that specifically says it. DA and others threaten legal action after expropriation is signed into law. So there you go. That's already coming up in the stories. I'm not surprised. I've already reported that. So let me find the original story on News 24. Where the heck's it at? There it is. That's the one. All the way down here, 6 hours ago. Has it been that long? Wow. Okay. Sign the expropriation bill into law. Nil compensation. Okay. Expropriation of property had been governed in terms of the Expropriation Act. So there it is. It says property, not land. Property. Civil war is not possible. I need to watch my shows in peace, people. Civil war. Who's talking about civil war? I didn't say anything about civil war. What are you talking about? Where are you getting that from? Don't put words in my mouth because I never said that. So the DA is threatening legal action. Well, not surprised. The Democratic Alliance has voiced strong opposition and threatened legal action against the government it is part of. The new legislation replacing the Expropriation Act of 75 outlines the state's procedure for land expropriation in the public interest. It's not land, it's property. In a statement, the DA said the Constitution allowed for acts to redress and restitution, including land reform. It, as a political party, had serious reservations about the procedure as well as important substantive aspects of the bill. AfriForum also threatened to sue, saying that Governor SUD had declared war on private property owners. Yep. So it's about property. Yep. Meanwhile, the ANC warmly welcomed the signing of the bill into law and described it as a significant milestone in South Africa's transformation agenda. The party's national spokesman, Bangu Motsiri, said the bill was a direct response to the needs of millions of South Africans who have been excluded from land ownership and need access to natural resources for far too long. Well, first off, that's bullshit. You don't get access to natural resources by owning land in South Africa. You don't own the gold. The government owns it. You don't own the platinum. The government owns it. You don't own the coal. They own it. You get jack shit from it. Owning land where they find all you get is that they occupy your land. You get nothing from that. That's not yours. The law is a critical step towards fulfilling the vision articulated in the Freedom Charter. No, it's not. Which declared the land shall be shared among those who work it. Communist. This momentous achievement reinforced the ANC's dedication to addressing the persistent legacy of colonial dispossession and apartheid spatial planning, ensuring that the land and resources of South Africa are used to the benefit of the majority of its people. You're doing exactly the opposite of that. And the persistent legacy of colonial dispossession, apartheid spatial planning, persistent. The ANC's reinforces dedication. What dedication? You've had billions of dollars and 31 years to come up with a solution, and you've pocketed the money and failed to take action. That's on you, man. That's on you, ANC. So, history repeats itself, says Bernard. If you exclude EWC and the new black expropriation tax, we are boned. Huh? Oh, if you include it, we're boned, yeah. Henny Dutoy says, do you think Trump would be open to conservative people from South Africa moving to the USA, farmers, programmers, electricians? Well, Trump is open to immigration. He loves immigration. The problem is he doesn't like illegal immigration. So if you immigrate here legally, you probably come here. I think we take like 50,000 people per year from most countries. So, yep. How can they sleep at night? Because they don't care, William. They don't care. They don't see the impact. This is like this reminds me, as I said, when Byron was on here yesterday when we were doing briberies. So when I was in Saudi Arabia for the Gulf War, you had the Saudis who had so much money it was coming out their butts. They didn't know what to do with it. So they buy Cadillacs. They wouldn't take it in for service. They'd never change the oil. They drive it until the engine seized up on it. They'd call somebody. They bring them a brand new Cadillac. And they just destroy the car rather than maintaining it. They have no vision. They don't care about the future. It's nonsense. They're eating for now. It's our turn to eat, as Michaela Wrong once said in her book about corruption in Kenya. It's our turn to eat. It's one of the best phrases I've ever heard. It's our turn to eat. ANC is, it's our turn to eat for the caters. They don't care about whether the farms succeed, whether they're overgrown, whether the rivers are polluted, whether the Vaal is full of lilies because of pollution and effluent and sewage and poo poured into the water. They don't care about that. They're drinking Evian and Patron and riding around in blue light escorts and living in fancy apartments that they didn't earn. They don't give a flying flip. Oh my goodness. I'm not going to, okay, Smoothie, once again, just like just like you're asking earlier, I think it was you asking earlier about, the taxes and, where is that? I'm not going to go look that up for you. I don't have time for that. Go download the bill. I've read the bill before it was signed in the legislation. It wasn't altered. Talks about property. Take my geese and chickens? Yes, it does. When I buy property in South Africa, I don't think of anything other than land. Buying my phone doesn't refer to buying property. Well, Smoothie, you can say that. But once again, I will show you South Africa's constitution. And I'll show you in its actual format. Where's it at here? Hang on a second there. The easiest way to do this. Oh, there it is. I got it right there. So I have to use the screen for this. So this is the South African Constitution. South African Constitution, not me. This isn't my speculation. Smoothie apparently needs to see evidence because Smoothie won't go look it up for Smoothie itself. Here you go. Property. No one may be deprived of property except in terms of yada, 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 yada. And property is not limited to land. Paragraph 4 down here, 4B. Property is not limited to land. There you go, right there. Pretty simple. That's pretty obvious. That is the Constitution. That is the Constitution. Property is not limited to land. That's pretty simple. That comes from the South African Constitution. And here it is. Adopted on 8th of May, 1996, and amended in October 1996. Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. There you go. That's where that comes from. There you go. Oh, boy. So I'm tired of proving stuff. EPA red tape being cut will pollute American rivers and wetlands. Nope. Untrue. EPA red tape doesn't change legislation there, Smoothie. See, that's another leftist talking point. Dude, you got to come, or dame, whichever you are, dude or dame, you got to come armed with actual ammunition here. You can't come to a firefight with me with nonsense. We have the Clean Water Act. We have the Clean Air Act. They're not abrogated because the EPA is eliminated. Whether there's an environmental protection agency or not doesn't change the requirements for American industry and Americans to adhere to the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act. That doesn't change that. I see this is the problem. I tell you, man. Anyway, it doesn't change anything. Nick Fun D something says, hope they expropriate my mother-in-law. Yeah, I don't think that comes into play, my friend. I don't think that comes into play. Anyway, we could do this all night, but I don't know if we're going to do it all night. Hey, let's hit some more likes there, folks. 233 on likes. Hit the like button if you don't mind.
That was easy.
Getting a bit of a headache. I've not eaten today. It is now 3:39 in the afternoon, so that's about 9 hours of work. I did a video earlier today with MV Velman for rugby, talking about rugby for the Megaphone Rugby channel, and then I did the video I prepared for the expropriation when that news broke this morning, because I caught it like right when it broke. And there's a $1.99 super chat coming from... Who's it coming from? It's a subscription. Sorry, Elsa subscribed, not a super chat. I get carried away. Thank you, Elsa, for subscribing. And then I did my news program for an hour. Then I did an hour plus with Ronaldo. Then we started this one. So I'm getting kind of knackered here. So Smoothie says, when did I become a leftist? I didn't. If I said you're leftist, I misspoke. The stuff you're saying are leftist ideas. You keep making leftist arguments. These are arguments leftists make. I've never once heard anybody on the right make any of the arguments you're making. Maybe they exist, but I haven't heard it. So, yeah, maybe I'm wrong. But I'm not wrong about what I'm saying. Look, okay, we'll take a moment and do this now. Well, I'm not going to do it now. It's too tired for that. But anyway, I was going to look up the taxes. But so does this theoretically enable the government to expropriate my watch? Yeah, in theory, sure. That's not going to happen, but that's the theory. They're going to have to eat the cats and dogs. I don't know anything about a fire act. When did I become a leftist? Anyway, so I'm mistaken, says Smoothie. Yeah, but you keep asking for things that are easily findable. You know, you could go to Google and try to prove me wrong. So the beginning of the end now set in stone. Well, possibly Ruvani. Yeah, and the goats. Goats. Yeah, that's funny. Okay, people are dropping off now. I'm gonna wrap it up here, folks. We got over 2 hours on this one. So 2, 3.5, 4.5 hours of broadcasting today. So I'm done. Hopefully people watch my content. Be sure to share this. And I thank you for being here. And look, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the day. What happens next is up to civil society in South Africa, and it's up to private organizations, civil rights groups like AfriForum and unions like Solidarity, the Institute for Race Relations and others to get involved in this fight, DRSA. And then for the public, for you, to have your voice be heard in one way or another. So please do that. This is not a good day for South Africa, but it's certainly not the end of the world. This thing will go to the courts and hopefully will be struck down. Pretty scary stuff, though, that the fact that he even signed it shows you how little he cares about folks. They need to fix the language, that's for sure. Yep. What did Dogbear say? It explicitly says property is not limited to land. Exactly. Yep. Anyway, and what about the big companies? Can't they do something? Well, they should do something too by putting pressure on there. Greg says, "Thank you for the bad news. I heard it from you first." Well, Greg, you're very welcome. And I apologize for bringing you the bad news, but hopefully I brought you insightful analysis and addressed your comments and chatted with everybody, which most people don't do like this. Well, I focused on the Bella as well. I'm focusing on the black tax, the 3%. That's insane. That will destroy foreign direct investment. So, yeah. Well, yeah, maybe this is a distraction. Maybe Arctic, and I didn't say this earlier, but I thought about this. Maybe Ramaphosa wants this to be a distraction from the Bella bill and from the 3% black tax they're proposing now while they'll put in place, while people lose their mind over this, which they know will be struck down by the courts. Maybe. Anyway, guys, have a good night. I got to get something to eat. I'm getting a headache. I got to go see my friend who's in his 80s and see how he's doing today. You're welcome. I'll see you tomorrow. And then we got rugby this weekend. Maybe I'll have Neil DeBeer on tomorrow. We'll see. Cheers, everybody. Be safe out there. Be sure to hit the like button before you disappear. Get us to 250 at least, all right? Let's do that. Shoot for 250. We're at 243.
That was easy.
151 of you here. I know all of you haven't hit that like button. Come on, you get this for free. Aside from the handful of super chats we got. Thanks for the super chats. And thanks for subscribers for joining us. Cheers. Be safe out there. Thanks, Wyatt Army.